could see Rogue looking to lock in a Black Feather here and just run Saw Black Feather, but instead they are going to grab the Lance. So we will get to see Evol on a Lance, and this is one of my favorite heroes of his Lance play. Again, we've gotten to see the three, I think, best Lance players in the game right now tonight between Chicken, Evol, and Gabe Vizzle. So this should be a treat to get to see this Lance come out from Evol.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right there. So we're ticking away on the bonus time, getting pretty low for C9 at the moment. They're really scratching their heads about this one to see what they're going to pick up. But it's another Ringo. And Ringo, again, we've talked about it so many times. He's just so strong this update, especially with his 6.2 range advantage, up from 6.1 that he had in the previous update. And if Old School is going to be on him, we know that Old School plays a pretty mean Ringo. So to have him on that thing, weapon power in the lane, is going to be a really scary sight. And we have that bonus time ticking away still. See what they pick up here for the jungle. It looks like a Sky is going to be picked up by C9. I Love Joseph going to be on that.
There is a world where this does end up actually being a weapon Sky with a crystal-powered Ringo. That could be an option here for Cloud9. I would prefer to see the Crystal Sky with the weapon Ringo, just because going into a Saw and a Lance, if you just throw down a forward barrage from a Crystal Sky, you will just melt through those targets. Batiste, as the final pick for Rogue, is there to just try and limit the mobility of Sky, limit her ability to dance around the map. And that's what both the Lance and the Batiste are here to do, to lock down targets so that this Saw can just tear through them. It's going to be difficult to execute because that Sky does have so much mobility. The Holy Novas from the Grace can interrupt the crowd control or the ability to follow up, more likely, from the side of Rogue. So both of these teams are going to have a strong composition heading into this final game.
It's interesting that you say that, because I feel like the Holy Nova can also interrupt the crowd control. So it can interrupt the crowd control coming out of Rogue, but then we can also see the Githian Walls interrupt the Divine Interventions coming out from Gabe Vizzle on this Grace. So it's going to be a very interesting interaction that we see between the two captains and the crowd control. Minion Candy's picked up right out of the gates for Gabe Vizzle here, and Old School. They really want to get aggressive with the lane.
Yeah, you mentioned the interaction between the Githian Wall preventing Grace from being able to do her work. There is, I'm wondering if maybe we might even see the Holy Nova get maxed out here by Gabe Vizzle, because then when you're using that Holy Nova, you cannot be crowd controlled. You cannot have it canceled by a Githian Wall. And going into a team like what Rogue has put together, making sure that you get that Holy Nova to hit could be so important.
You're absolutely right. And if everybody does group up, that would be a great thing to see, with those Holy Novas hitting 3 members of the opposing team. However, we do see Evil being as potentially the only one who's going to be going in a little bit further, because he does have melee attacks. Well, we do have melee attacks coming from Baptiste too, but with Sibs on Baptiste, he's going to be throwing bad mojos out a lot. More likely going to be spamming them with once he gets up a clockwork. But Hammy in the lane with this weapon power Saw, something we haven't seen tonight. We've seen the CP Saw in the lane. It's interesting to see this interaction. And there's that minion candied wave putting pressure on Hammy and Rogue's tier 1 turret.
Yeah, going to be trying to deny as much CS away from Hammy as possible. But you see, actually, Hammy with a CS lead because of the way the early game started, the rotations that were made. And obviously, if this does continue to be a weapon Saw, the pressure that can come out, the weapon Saw is the Saw that generally shoves in these turrets immensely fast, going for 5-minute turrets and things like that. Sibs going to be in some trouble as they work on this tree, and it will go over to Sibs. Now can they find the damage onto Joseph? Had to use the healing flask already. Both of these carries did, that is. Now Gabe Vizzle going to take a bit of damage from Sibs as he tries to get himself empowered to throw out those bad mojos. Doesn't need a bad mojo to get first blood, as it's actually Evol that picks that one up. with the assist from Sibs. But it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade. Meanwhile, up in the lane, Hammy and Old School going toe-to-toe with each other and trading a lot of damage. But you see Hammy just going to start working on this turret. Needs to be careful that Old School doesn't just turn and kill him. And that's exactly why he backs away. The moment Old School started to get aggressive, Hammy backs away and recalls back to base.
Overall, I feel like we had a better trade for Rogue out of that because we did see them take about half damage down onto the tier 1 turret for C9. And then we had Evil actually rotate up into the lane to help Hammy out there. Not only that, but he landed a pretty good impale onto onto Old School. His name is throwing me off, this guy. I feel like he did a little bit of a name change there with adding the C9 in the beginning of his name. But just so much pressure, and already we see some pretty good weapon power spikes. We had Hammy rotate back to pick up that heavy steel, and the poison blade there. I forgot what that one's called. Barb needle. That's what it is. But Evil's going pretty low.
Yeah, Evil's in trouble. Has to impale over the wall to get the safety. Meanwhile, Hammy, he's underneath the Cloud9 turret, and it will let the minions finish that off as he goes into the jungle. He's just going to try and steal away what he can. I think he's going to be willing to sacrifice himself if need be, but it looks like he might actually be able to recall here. No, he's going down to Old School with the sentries coming and the rest of Cloud9 coming down here as well. He is going to fall, but he's trading his life for a turret and got a treant out of the Cloud9 jungle. And by doing so, it pulled all three members of Cloud9 down. That means they weren't going to be able to follow up and answer his turret push with one of their own. So ultimately, that is a trade in favor of Rogue. You can see they've started to accrue a little bit of a gold lead between the Elder treants they've secured and that first turret going down. They have a little over a 1,000 gold advantage.
Not only that, but we have 3 minion candies actually picked up by Hammy now. So he's just continuously putting the pressure on as this weapon power saw in lane. And I must say, even though he died back there in the enemy jungle, he just wanted to take a quick way to get to the item shop, right? To pick up that serpent's mask.
That's always the reason to use when you die unnecessarily, or when you had a chance to recall and didn't actually finish it. But again, the trade still worked out in their favor, so it's not something to rag on Hammy for. It was a worthwhile trade for him. Meanwhile, Sib stealing away another camp from I Love Joseph, and Hammy just continuing to put pressure on here in the lane, looking to get damage done onto this turret. Sib's going to rotate up as well. And they're just going to take this tier 2 turret, perhaps. Never mind, the turret actually targets onto Rogue. Hammy going down low. Holy Nova is going to find a stun. Sibs is trying to get himself out of harm's way, but he's in a lot of trouble. Hammy is now going to be the next target after the kill comes through. Impale and a Githian wall will keep them at bay temporarily. It looks like they're just going to turn their attention onto Evil, so sacrificing his life to allow Hammy to recall out to safety. But now this is where Cloud9 can take advantage. Knowing that they got those kills, they can push up and take this first turret for themselves.
I like what Hammy actually did right there. He tried to delay C9 as much as possible after losing Evil right there with another minion candied wave. And that didn't quite save it, but it allowed them to get back into the fight. And down he goes.
It didn't save the turret, but allowed them to come up and find a kill. Now Gabe Vizzle's going to be in trouble. Once that Ordained is back up, 2 seconds, he's going to be in a world of trouble. There it goes down. He has nowhere to go. He actually dodges the first bad mojo, but Sibs will clean up that kill. Meanwhile, Hammy and Evil going to work on the gold mine, while Rogue is just going to finish off this tier 2 turret. Sibs could be in some trouble, though. Throws down the Ordained onto I Love Joseph, but between Joseph and Old School, that is an easy kill to pick up. Meanwhile, Hammy and Evil have not quite finished off this gold miner. They're going to be in some trouble. Here comes Cloud9. The Impale goes through. Gold miner very low. Gold mine does get collected with a shank. And also, Old School is very low. Joseph is going to end up dropping to the damage from Hammy. Heal has to come out onto Old School, but the stun from the Holy Nova will allow the kill to go through. So a lot of kills getting traded, but the objectives are going the way of Rogue.
That's right. The objective game is in Rogue's favor right now, with 2 turrets down in the lane. We have 1 turret down from side of Rogue right now. And these waves have been continuously well controlled by Hammy over and over again, and by Evil as well. If you look at that, he's actually placed down some vision there in that mustache bush, and he's just hanging out. If you look at Hammy's build right now, he does have that Tyrant's Monocle built up now after he picked up his Serpent's Mask. So he's going for some crit damage here and lifesteal as well. So that's going to really help him out. And you even saw in that last team fight, Tasty, that he was able to survive very long in that tri-bush. It was only when Gabe Vizzle stunned him up with that Holy Nova that he lost his footing and he wasn't able to output the amount of damage, not only to kill the carries on C9, but also just to stay alive in general.
You see Rogue trying to set up some ambushes now for Cloud9. Joseph is going to have his middle treant stolen away once again. But look at the items being completed. Old School has himself a Tyrant's Monocle of his own. And so that's going to be a good damage spike for him, but still pretty far behind as far as the items are concerned for Hammy, who has 2.5 items completed now. Also look to the jungle. 2 items for Sibs to only the 1.5 for Joseph. So Rogue, they have an item advantage. They know it. They're trying to take advantage. Nice block from Old School will prevent him from getting rooted from the Impale. And there goes Gabe Vizzle jumping on in. They're trying to get a lot of damage out onto any of these targets. The Death from Above is not going to find a stun. Hammy is pretty well spun up. He can start getting some good damage out. Fearsome Shade is going to knock up Sky for just a little bit. Gabe Vizzle is taking very low. That target's focus on Hammy, though. He's going to go so low, but they can't quite get the kill. That's that survivability you mentioned. It's 1-for-1 trade, but Sibs with an empowered Bad Mojo will take out Old School, and Gabe Vizzle will be the only member of Cloud9 to get out alive. Very even fight at first, but eventually Hammy just surviving for so long, able to get so much extra damage out in the process.
And I've really done a lot of research with Saw, and he's just so strong right now, especially because of Serpent's Mask. Him being able to pick up that first, it's not something you typically see picked up on him, but as of this update 2.11, he's able to deal more damage with it. He's able to sustain even more, and though he's getting focused down and even focusing the wrong target, I feel like at some points he was focusing on Gabe Vizzle, who's the tankiest member of C9 at the moment. He was still able to stay alive to the point where they traded 2-for-1, and that for Rogue, that's a really good thing right now. They're sitting up about 3,500 gold at the moment, looking to extend their gold lead even further now, and they have the objective advantage at the moment by 1 turret here. So gold mine going over to them, and they're further increasing their gold lead to nearly 5,000 gold. Things are looking really good for them. We have Vision picked up by Evil. He's going to want to flare out a lot of those bushes just to make sure that Hammy doesn't get caught out there. He's had 3 deaths onto him, but he's been facilitating so much. Look at Sibs, actually. He's gotten 4 kills on himself on him, being able to just do the work and finish the job that Hammy does, focusing down these targets.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see the damage stats after this game. Hammy is obviously going to have a lot of damage, even though Sibs has more kills. A lot of this has been facilitated, as you mentioned, by Hammy with the double monocle build now. He's just going to be tearing through opponents. There's not much armor. The only armor built on the side of Cloud9 is a tier 1 on Old School and a tier 2 on Gabe Vizzle. He just turned that into an Atlas. If the attack slow gets onto Hammy, that will absolutely devastate this Saw's damage output. But we do have a reflex block for Hammy and a crucible for Evol to try and help to make sure that those blocks happen. Obviously, Hellfire Brew, you want to consider blocking the Holy Nova and Death from Above, all things that you might want to think about using that block on. But the most important is to block that the Atlas Pauldron for Hammy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If they're able to block those out, that's going to be very utilitarian for them to continue to keep him spun up, keep his attack output, his damage output there. We're at 12 minutes in right now. Kraken's not on the board yet, but it looks like another gold miner is going to be going over to Rogue right now and potentially uncontested. I don't think that C9 knows this is going on, but Sibs, it's a decent gold payout. It's not too bad. Clockwork on Sibs right now allows him to just facilitates so much. And an Echo picked up by him. He really wants to be able to lock down either Old School or I Love Joseph with those Ordains.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the Echo gets used. We have seen Rogue being a little unconventional with their Echo usage. Evil constantly using the Echo on Grace for the Holy Nova. And obviously the obvious choice is to Echo the Fearsome Shade. But when you have a Saw on your team, the Fearsome Shade isn't quite as effective because it pushes them away from the Saw. That Double Ordained, however, could be something that has a lot of effect, or even double bad mojos when you get empowered. If you can throw an extra bad mojo during your empowered cooldown, those hit for 700 to 800 damage generally. There's going to be one Ordained being used. Hellfire Brew onto Hammy. Everyone is focusing onto Hammy. Everything's being used to keep him alive, and they do so, getting the first kill. Death from above will not slow him down at all. And Gabe Vizzle, last man standing again, but Hammy and Sibs, they say, we don't need the ace. We have minions here. We have a weapon Saw. We can take down the choke point turret.
Not only are they taking down the choke point turret, but they're really dashing C9.
Evil and Gabe Vizzle having a dance party up in the middle of the map.
Is that what they're doing? They know this is over, man. It's amazing.
They know that neither of those two are going to be able to get the kill, but now, with everyone coming back, we could just get a follow-up fight immediately as Sibs throws out the Ordained, gets himself empowered, throws out some bad mojos, but Hammy is nowhere to be found just yet. He was going down to the shop, picking up an infusion, and getting ready for a fight. We could have another one break out shortly if these teams so desire. We're 1 minute away from Kraken.
What's actually a rare, very interesting interaction here that I've seen with Hammy is that he's not only does he have all the lifesteal, but he also has completed that Aegis. Oh, it looks like he might be getting caught out here. He's shanking away. Roadie run to the extreme to egress from that potential team fight. And here we go in the mustache bush.
Mustache bush fight happening, but Hammy is nowhere to be found. Sibs staying alive for a long time with that heal coming through the fountain, doing work, but they do eventually find the kill. Again, Hammy was not part of that fight. 2v3, Rogue gets caught out, and right before Kraken, that could be a rough spot. Thankfully, they still have 20 seconds left, and Sibs will be back up as Kraken spawns, so it's not going to actually cost them much at all.
I think that C9 has found the crux of the problem. They need to take out Hammy. If they're able to separate Hammy or focus him down to the point where they kill him and only leave 2 members of Rogue alive, that's where they're going to be able to have the most impact in these team fights. A 3v2 situation is so much more favorable for C9 at the moment. But Hammy, I didn't get to finish talking about it, but he's got an Aegis. He's blocking out a lot of the damage that's coming out from I Love Joseph. And that is what's really going to be killing him in these team fights, because we know that I Love Joseph can dive in as this guy and reposition with the series strikes coming out of her. So Hammy needs to keep himself safe, and that's why he picked up that Aegis there. But
Hammy is soloing Kraken. He has double monocle and a third crit item on the way. Cloud9, they have no idea this is happening, because why would you expect a Saw to be soloing Kraken? Kraken has been unleashed, and Hammy can rotate up and try and join this fight. Suppressing fire will slow up Joseph. He's going to block the Impale, but now the Ordained, he can't get out, and that's a kill for Rogue. What a smart play and shot call for Rogue, finding the Kraken take completely unbeknownst to Cloud9, and they get that kill as Kraken is making her way towards the base.
It's such a difficult thing because C9 did not have any vision down in the jungle or on the Kraken. They had no idea it was going on. And
through onto Ringo. That's going to be Old School left for dead. Great job by Evil catching him out of position. And now with a Netmer dead as Kraken collapses onto these turrets, they do get Joseph back. Evil is low, but it's just not going to matter with a full health Kraken. This game is over. This series is over, and Rogue will take down Cloud9. They get a small bit of revenge, and they will be moving on to the finals of the Halcyon Elite League playoffs.
If there is anything, Tasty Bacon, that Saw did better this game than push turrets, it's make a cake of sweet revenge, because it tastes oh so good for Rogue to be able to get in there, push 5 turrets, only losing 1, and just doing such an amazing job keeping Hammy alive for the majority. just to do enough damage to have Sibs possibly finish people off. Amazingly done by all of Rogue, and C9 really putting up a pretty decent fight with the kills wise, but objectives wise, they weren't able to pull out a win, even though they had the momentum going for them. They had everything on the line for them. They wanted to keep relevant here in the Vainglory pro scene, and Rogue stole it away from them.
We all know Saw push turret, but today we learned Saw